Good afternoon once again and welcome. My name is Ed Nicholas. I'm president of the Braden Kiwanis Club, and it is our distinct honor and privilege to have you join us here this afternoon. We have an amazing group of veterans. We have an amazing program for you, and again, we're so thrilled that you're here. I see too many to mention, but we have retired General Jerry Neff here in our midst. We have retired Air Force Major Mike Makar. I see Jan Vestal's husband, Army veteran. Dave Grantham's dad is here. He is Navy. I see Angel Coloniso's dad. It's awesome to have you here. Jane Coker's dad is here. He is Army. And John Horn's dad is here. He's retired Air Force. I would be remiss if I did not mention that my father-in-law is here. He's a great man. He is retired Army. It also happens to be his birthday. So happy birthday, Sal. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your service. We have a wonderful program today. As I said, our program is a very, very small token of our sincere appreciation for your service, for your sacrifice in war and in peace. Thank you. Before I turn it over to Jerry, we do have a few brief announcements. There is a replay outreach kickoff for their Acceleration Job program on November 20th. See Tom Mosley for details. We have a board meeting next week, the 18th at Pier 22. If any of our guests would like to join the Bradenton Kiwanis Club, we'd love to have you. Please see me after the meeting. We got a great group here, great food, great programs, a great group of people who have dedicated their lives to improving the lives of the children here in Manatee County. If you've been thinking about becoming more active in your community, this may be the place for you. Trust me when I say you get back way more than you give. Next week is the Farm City Week. It's always one of our favorite programs, not simply because we all get to take home fresh grown vegetables. Thank you, Brenda, for putting together that awesome program. And finally, it's a couple of weeks off, but our Christmas party is Tuesday, December 8th. There is no meeting that day, but it's going to be a great party. Same entertainer as our birthday party. And we have our giving tree outside. Lori's not here, but if you haven't taken a gift, feel free to do so. We're collecting gifts for needy children and families here in our county. Again, thank you for being here. I want to thank the Key Clubbers for greeting our guests here, and I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Kuntz. Jerry, thanks so much for putting together such an awesome program.
As Judge Nicholas said, thank you all very much for being here. This is just phenomenal. What a turnout. I'd just like to start by recognizing the members of the Honor Guard who are with us from VFW Post 10141. They are Garth Reynolds, Dick Kapransky, George Queso, and Tony Guerrera. And we're also pleased to have with us today Arnie's Army Quartet, consisting of Arnie Hansen, Ken Geisinger, Jim Craig, and Glenn Moon. At this point, I'll ask you to please rise for the presentation of the colors.
Color guard, halt! Clear, face!
We will now have the national anthem from the quartet.
Present arms!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs burst bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Very good. Thank you. Would you please now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, before they have to leave, I'm going to ask the quartet to lead us in God Bless America.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. America, my home.
Thank you very much.
Order, arms. Dismiss.
Thank you very much, Quartet and Honor Guard, for joining us today. Honor us with your presence. Please be seated. We're honored to have some very special guests with us today, and I'm going to defer introducing them at this time. We'll be sharing information about them for you and with you in just a few minutes. At this time, I ask that all military veterans please stand so that we can recognize you and thank you for your service. And now, will all the spouses of our military veterans please stand? All veterans will tell you that their spouses endured as much of the same challenges as they did in serving our country. Thank you all very much. This year, our entire nation is commemorating the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the Vietnam War. Ceremonies and events are being held across America, and today's luncheon is part of that commemoration. At this time, we will play a video narrated by actor Sam Elliott regarding the Vietnam War, in which the official involvement of the U.S. Armed Forces began on November 14, 1965, 50 years ago this Saturday.
"9 million Americans served during the period of the Vietnam War. They represented 10% of their generation. 6 million of them were volunteers. They were the oldest and best educated force America ever sent into harm's way. 97% would be honorably discharged. And today, the vast majority of them testify with their actions and their words that they are proud of their service and would serve again if called." November 14, 1965, 10:48 a.m. Elements of the 7th Cavalry touched down at Landing Zone X-Ray. Within 30 minutes, the Battle of the Ai Drang began, the first major battle fought by the American Army in Vietnam. Over 3 harrowing days, vastly outnumbered American forces would hold out and ultimately repel enemy forces. American forces would never lose a major engagement during the ensuing 8 years of combat operations. Known as the Wall, the Vietnam Memorial stands in honor of those who served in the Vietnam War. The names of the men and women who gave their lives are inscribed in the order they were taken from us. 58,286 names. The youngest was Marine Private First Class Dan Bullock at 15 years of age, and the oldest was Navy Petty Officer First Class Kenna Taylor at 62. There are 3 sets of fathers and sons, 1 set of stepbrothers, 39 pairs of brothers, 8 women, 16 clergy, and 155 Medal of Honor recipients. And let us not forget, there are still more than 1,600 missing and unaccounted for personnel. The French were in Vietnam before the Americans and lost more than 70,000 lives. More than 400,000 Allied troops served with the American forces. Joining as allies with the United States were the Republic of Korea, Thailand, the Republic of the Philippines, Australia, and New Zealand. These allies suffered more than 5,000 lives lost during the course of the war. American combat forces left Vietnam in 1973. 2 years later, Saigon fell. Over those last 2 years, without American and Allied combat forces in the region, casualties in Southeast Asia were doubled what they had been during the 10 years prior. To our Vietnam veterans who answered the nation's call to serve, we thank you. Your greatness is etched in history from the battlefields of Southeast Asia to the neighborhoods of hometown America, where you continue to bring blessings and inspiration to your families and your country today. To the families of our Vietnam veterans, we thank you for the greatness of your support, sacrifice, vigilance, and compassion. And to our allies, who stood by us 50 years ago, we thank you. The greatness that was earned by this generation never left you, and it never will.
All veterans who served in Vietnam, as well as those who served on active duty during the Vietnam War, are considered Vietnam veterans. Will all Vietnam veterans please stand? We thank you for your service.
9 million Americans served during the period of the Vietnam War. They represented 10% of their generation.
As you saw on the video, many who served in wartime were missing in action or became prisoners of war. In front of the room is a table which signifies our MIAs and our POWs. I would like to review what the table stands for with you at this time. The table is set for one who cannot be with us today. It is symbolic of American prisoners of war and those who are still missing in action. The single chair represents our POWs and MIAs' loneliness and is facing away from us to signify an unknown face reflecting each of them. The black napkin stands for the emptiness that their absence has left in the hearts and families of friends who remember and miss them. The overturned glass and plate remind us that they cannot be with us today. The red rose and ribbon symbolize the sacrifices and hardships endured by them and their loved ones and the love of our country that led them to such sacrifice. The white tablecloth and vase stand for hope that we may someday have our POWs and MIAs back with us. The Bible is for faith, for whatever reform that may be for each of us, which sustains our missing warriors and their loved ones through the immense difficulties they are enduring. The yellow candle and ribbon remind us that we must never abandon our work for the return and complete accounting of our missing countrymen, and that we must never forget them. Please join me in a moment of solemn prayer for our POWs and MIAs. One of our guests of honors today is Bradley E. Smith, Commander, U.S. Navy retired. Brad enlisted in the Navy in 1961. He was later selected for Naval Cadet Flight Training and received his wings and commission in 1964. He was assigned to Jet Attack Squadron VA 76 and went to sea on aircraft carriers, the Roosevelt, America, and Enterprise. In October 1965, he deployed for Southeast Asia on the Enterprise and arrived off the coast of South Vietnam in late November. On March 25, 1966, while on his 80th combat mission, Brad was shot down over North Vietnam. He was captured and held prisoner of war until his release on February 13, 1975, just 2.5 weeks short of 7 years in captivity. After his repatriation, Brad returned to fleet combat operations, serving on the USS Saratoga and the USS Coral Sea. He retired from the Navy in the rank of commander in 1985. His decorations include 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses, the Meritorious Service Medal, 2 Purple Hearts, 5 Air Medals, and the Navy Commendation Medal. Will Brad and his wife, Kirsten, please stand at this time? Thank you, Brad and Kirsten. Our other guest of honor is our guest speaker, Colonel Benjamin M. Nisley, U.S. Army retired. In 1968, during a tour of duty in Vietnam while piloting a UH-1 medevac helicopter, Ben was shot down in the Ashall Valley over enemy territory and severely wounded in the crash. Ben and his crew were listed as missing in action on April 2nd of 1968 and were subsequently rescued by a highly publicized, heroic, and daring mission executed by the Army's famous 101st Airborne Division. The details of the harrowing escape and evasion actions by then First Lieutenant Nisley and his co-pilot, and the successful rescue efforts by a small special operations team are chronicled in a book by Peter Dolan entitled Dust Off 65, which was published in 1974. Following 9 months of hospitalization, Ben returned to active duty, requalified to fly the medevac helicopter, which he did for the remainder of his Army career. In his last tour of duty, Ben served on the special staff of General Norman Schwarzkopf during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Now, this next part, Ben asked me to dispense with actually covering his decorations and awards with you. He said, that's kind of boring, and I don't really want you to do that. And normally when a colonel tells you to do something, you say, yes, sir, and you do it. But I resisted, and I said, well, how about a compromise? He said, well, I guess I can't really force you, so go ahead. So there will be a compromise, but bear with me first. Ben's decorations include the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, the Air Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters, the Defense Superior Service Medal, the Defense Joint Services Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters, and the U.S. Army Commendation Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters. The compromise is that I will not mention the rest of the awards because they're too numerous to mention, as Ben wanted me to say. As a certified flight instructor, Colonel Nisley is an active FAA wing instrument pilot logging several hundred flying hours annually. Please join me in giving a warm Kiwanis welcome to our guest speaker, Colonel Ben Nisley.
Thank you, Jerry, for that very gracious introduction. Distinguished guests, Commander Brad Smith and Mrs. Smith, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor and privilege to be here today, celebrate what I think is the beginning of, thank you, beginning of our Veterans Week. Perfect. All week long, you're going to read in the newspaper, and you're going to hear other talks about the meaning of Veterans Day, how it began, armistice title, and so on. And so I won't bore you with those stories. You'll see plenty of articles, and you'll see that plenty of times. What I will like to talk to you about today is the subject is, what is a veteran? After I retired from the Army, I had the privilege, and I'll say again, the privilege, to teach ROTC cadets. And one day in a classroom setting, a young 16-year-old cadet said to me, he says, "Sir, how do I tell a veteran?" I paused, and I'm really not sure what my answer was at that time, but I've thought about that for a long time. And the answer to that is certainly very poignant for today and very poignant for all of us to think about. Some veterans bear visible signs of their service: a missing limb, a jagged scar, a wheelchair, a certain look in their eye. Unfortunately, and even more prevalent in these times, many carry the evidence inside them: a pin holding a bone together, piece of shrapnel in the leg, traumatic brain injury, and mental stress that may never go away. Except in parades like those that you're going to see all over the country tomorrow, men and women who have kept America safe for generations wear no visible badge or emblems. Admittedly, the young cadet asked, as the young cadet asked, it is more often than not hard to tell a veteran just by looking at them. So let me tell you a couple stories. Just what is a veteran? He's a 28-year-old deputy sheriff working the third watch tonight. Spent 6 months in the desert of Iraq, sweating 2 gallons a day, making sure that the armored personnel carriers didn't run out of fuel. You'll notice that some of these stories are real people. He's a college law professor who wears a suit and tie now every day. But as a young infantry lieutenant, led a small team of airborne soldiers directly into the face of the enemy in order to rescue 2 downed American helicopter pilots trapped in the jungle behind enemy lines, somewhere in the Republic of Vietnam. He's the 86-year-old gray-haired, bearded man sitting on a stool in downtown bar tonight, thought by most to be dumber than dirt, but whose loudmouth behavior today is outweighed 100 times in the cosmic scales by just 4 hours of exquisite bravery somewhere on a hill without a name in Korea, the 38th parallel area. She is a young lieutenant nurse who fought against medical futility and went to sleep sobbing about every night for 12 straight months in a field hospital somewhere near an airfield in faraway Afghanistan. He's the Army drill instructor who's never seen combat, but has saved several countless lives by turning slouchy, no-account rednecks and big city gang boys into sharp soldiers and teaching them how to watch each other's back. He's a U.S. Navy fighter pilot who was shot down by enemy fire, endured prison captivity for 6 years and 11 months, something the average American cannot even comprehend. Clearly, he went away as one person and came back as another. And sadly, some of his wingmen may not have come back at all. He's the 3 anonymous heroes in the Tomb of the Unknowns, whose presence at Arlington National Cemetery must forever preserve the memory of all the anonymous heroes whose valor lies unrecognized with them on the battlefields or in the ocean's sleepless deep. He's the 95-year-old man bagging groceries at your local public supermarket on Fruitville Road in Sarasota. Palais now and aggravatingly slow, he helped liberate a Nazi death camp in 1945. He smiles and asks to carry your bags today, but he wishes that all day long his wife were still alive to hold him when the nightmares come, as they always do. Please remember, folks, that the great irony of tomorrow is that the parades and ceremonies will subside as the sun sets at the end of the day. But for many combat veterans, the agonizing memory of the horrors of war that they endured will never go away. He's the parade-riding Legionnaire sitting in a red Mustang tomorrow who pins on his ribbons with a prosthetic hand. He's one of a dozen internments every year at the National Cemetery in Sarasota that, following the solemn sound of taps, sadly, there is no family member present to accept the folded flag from the honor guard captain. And this one hurts. He's the hometown name. Excuse me. He's a hometown name in yesterday's obituary column of a 30-year-old Marine who took his life because he was unable to cope. Throughout the nation each day, 22 of our veterans succumb to this unthinkable action. Pardon me for my composure. He or she is an ordinary yet extraordinary human being, a person who offered up some of their life's most vital years in the service of their country, and who sacrificed his or her ambitions so that other Americans would not have to sacrifice theirs. A very poignant cliche that I'm sure you've all heard, but we should never forget. that a veteran, whether active duty, retired, National Guard, or Reserve, is someone who at one point in his life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for the amount and up to including his life. Ladies and gentlemen, seated all around you today are folks who've cashed in that check. Make no mistake about it, everybody, every one of them paid something. And yes, probably each of you know someone who cashed in for the full amount and gave it all. You see, folks, for those citizens whom you can recognize, for all those citizens whom you can recognize instantly as a veteran, there are many more that carry that honor and distinction quite humbly and without any fanfare or without any public awareness. I want you to consider something that's taken hold in the past few years, and it is perhaps one of the most endearing gestures of patriotism of our current times. Each time you encounter someone who is a veteran or you suspect such, reach out and shake their hand, or just reach over and say thanks for your service. Trust me, that's all most veterans really would like to have, and it'll mean more to them than any award they ever received or perhaps should have received. This is hard for many of you folks to do who are shy, and you've told me that. But if you'll just try it a couple times, you'll suddenly find out how easy it is and how good it makes you and the person you're offering the tribute to feel. Before you know it, it'll become something that's not only easy to do, it's something you're going to want to do, and it will become a part of your social repertoire. The countless dividends that will result from this simple gesture will do more than anything else to bestow pride and recognition to the millions of veterans who deserve our admiration for their personal sacrifices. You just saw that this is the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. Those veterans, probably more than any in our modern time, failed to get perhaps a welcome home. One final note. Folks often ask us old gray guys, what's good about war? And as we all know, war is bad. But I share one thought with you. For the last 14 years, we've now been at war on terror. Over 2 million men and women have deployed back and forth, some of them for so many times it's hard to count on two hands. And if you think about it, soon those men and women are going to be running our country. They're going to be they've come back home, they've raising families, they've got a job, and they're going to be CEOs of companies pretty soon. They're going to be mayors of cities, maybe congressmen, maybe senators, maybe even a president. Who else would you want at the hands of this country than someone who has, as Churchill said, who's been in the arena, who understands what the flag stands for, who knows the word freedom and liberty because of that time they spent in the arena. So it's a small dividend, but it is something about war that certainly when it comes time to vote in this coming year, think about that. Those are the people that I think we very easily likely trust our nation with. God bless our military men and women who are standing watch on the front lines around the world today. Don't forget, we've been at war for 14 years. We're still there. Our current administration would like to tell us that it's over. But if you'll watch the nightly news, you know that there's a growing band of inhumane savages called ISIS that are intent to destroy all the liberty and freedom stand for. And let us pray that our current leaders and those who wish to be leaders fully understand the threat to the entire world that band of savages brings to us. Remember our servicemen and women in your thoughts and prayers. And remember to thank them every chance you get. Thanks for having me with you today, and to Commander Brad Smith, I salute you in your honor and your sacrifice, and add my personal welcome home to the many others that you so deservedly received. God bless America. Thank you all very much.
Wow. Before I turn the podium back to Judge Nicholas, I want to recognize one other person who's with us today who we've missed for many months. He's a retired Air Force full colonel who was an F-4 pilot in Vietnam. He was shot down, luckily rescued, but spent many, many months recuperating from his injuries. And he's also our county commissioner, Larry Bussell. Great to see you, Larry. Now, if I can get this thing to work, we have one more thing that we want to do in recognition of our veterans, and I hope I can figure this out. Maybe Janine will give me a hand. This is the Armed Forces Medley, and when you hear your service song played for your branch of service, please stand. Army. Navy. Coast Guard. Air Force. Marine Corps. thank you for all who served, for your spouses who served with you. Our special guests today, Commander Brad Smith, and of course our honored guest and guest speaker, Colonel Ben Nisley. And a big thanks from all of us veterans to Judge Nicholas and the Braden and Kiwanis Club for hosting this wonderful event again this year. We thank you very much.
It has truly been Bradenton Kiwanis' honor and privilege to host this amazing group of men and women here this afternoon. Colonel, it is a tradition here at the Braden and Kiwanis Club to thank our speaker, to show them a small token of our appreciation. It's the Kiwanis Golden Rule. It's much coveted. Thank you for being here. Let's hear it again for Colonel Nisley. Indulge me one more minute, and I know the hour is late. As you learned at our last meeting last week, the Hickson Award, named for the first international president of the Braden Kiwanis Club, is awarded to individuals who exemplify service to their club and their community. It's a very prestigious award. We gave out 4 last week to some very deserving individuals. We have one more. This person has been a Kiwanian since 1993. That's 22 years. He exemplifies the spirit of Kiwanis with a caring and generous heart and a desire to improve the lives of those around him. He has chaired our Veterans Day program for over 20 years. He's an incredible advocate for our local vets. I can't imagine our club without him. I can't imagine Manatee County without him. Please join me in giving a warm Kiwanis thank you and congratulations to our new Hickson Award winner, Jerry Kuntz. Thank you, Jerry, for an amazing program. Thank you, Jerry, for amazing programs for so many years putting on our Veterans Day program. I wanted to fill the room. I'm just so thrilled that we did. We're so thrilled to have you. Thank you to all our guests for being here. Thank you, Key Club, for greeting our veterans. Thank you, of course, all our veterans who joined us today. We don't say it often enough, but we are forever indebted to you. We honor you. We thank you. I want to again say happy birthday to my father-in-law, a great man, a great veteran. Happy birthday, Sal. We hope you enjoyed our program. We hope to see you back here next year. God bless America. Have a great day.